Hey y'all, Mercy here, and today we're taking a look at the latest entry in the Carmageddon series, Carmageddon Rogue Shift. This series has been running on and off since 1997, with the last entry coming in 2016 with Carmageddon Max Damage. But over those 20 or so years, the formula has primarily stayed the same until now. Carmageddon Rogue Shift moves away from the open arena demolition derby style combat and instead replaces it with a full-fledged roguelite combat racer, complete with guns, meta upgrades, and of course, the constant threat of permadeath. When I first heard that Rogue Shift was a roguelite, I was very skeptical. I'm not generally a fan of this genre, but after spending the last week or so with it, I can safely say that the game has surprised me in the best ways possible. But before I dive into this review, I want to thank the developer 34 Big Things for providing the channel with a key for a review. All opinions in this video are my own. I was not told what to say, so thank you again for this opportunity. I appreciate it. And if you enjoy what I do, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more racing game reviews. Alright, let's dive into the game. Rogue Shift takes place in the year 2050 on a post-apocalyptic Earth. You're taking part in the Carmageddon, a cross-country death race that grants the winner passage from Earth. The developers have done a great job of making this game look the part. Tracks are grimy and dark, cars are covered in metal bars and welded on rusty sheet metal that wouldn't look out of place in the Mad Max universe. All of this is backdropped by a fittingly metal soundtrack that dynamically changes based on events happening in the game, which I love, by the way. The second-to-second gameplay in Rogue Shift can get pretty chaotic, with 5 or more opponents on the track with you at the same time, all vying to get across that finish line before you. This game is a big departure from the past games in the sense that, in addition to your car being a weapon, you also get a dedicated gun. Depending on which car you choose, that changes which perk and which gun you start with. But this can always be changed as you go through your run. I say your run because Carmageddon Rogue Shift is a full-fledged roguelite. And before you click off of this video, hear me out. In the beginning of the game, you're given a pretty cruddy car and weapon, but as you progress through this game's campaign, you'll earn credits and beat coins. Beat coins are spent in the black market, which contains your permanent upgrades, new cars, new unlockable weapons, and perks. Credits, on the other hand, are spent in the game's shops and only apply to your specific run. Each run is a series of different events that are generated in a mostly random order, with shops and other special events sprinkled in between. The most common event type is Death Race, which is a race to the finish where you have to finish top 3 to progress. If you die or you don't finish top 3, your run is over. There are other event types like Survival, where you just have to make it to the finish while the game's environmental hazards take shots at you. There are 3 major categories of hazards here. The first 2 are the Wasted. In simple terms, the Wasted are basically zombies, but they actually play a pivotal role in the second-to-second gameplay. The Wasted give you credits for killing them, running them over, shooting them, whatever it might be, but they also fill up your boost. Even if you're not gunning to win races on speed, you're gonna need boost, whether that's to plow through a crowd of Wasted or to dodge obstacles, whatever it might be. The regular Wasted aren't major obstacles, but the special Wasted are the ones you have to look out for. These guys throw objects onto the track that slow you down or even kill you, and there's even one called the Boomer that will run out in front of you and blow himself up. Gnarly. But you can sort of use the Wasted to your advantage too. Say you're in first and you see the Broodmother. Blow her up and she'll throw mines all over the track behind you, which your opponents will run over. Not every gun is able to hit these targets reliably, so again, that's just another thing to think about when you're building out your loadout. The third category are the Enforcers. These are basically cops, and will do whatever they can to get in your way and just be an absolute menace. They're not a part of the race, but they play a big role in it. Say you're way out front dominating the race, you're not really earning credits because you're not shooting anyone else. The Enforcers give you an opportunity to still earn credits, just don't let them get close to you. They will spin you out and potentially ruin your race. Besides just winning the event and killing your opponents, there are also bonus objectives for each event. These can range from doing X amount of damage or leading the race for X amount of seconds, but it adds an additional challenge that pays out bonus credits. After each event, you're paid out credits based on your performance, which can then be spent in one of the game's 3 shops. These shops are the Weapon Shop, Upgrade Shop, and Repair Shop. Weapon shops allow you to swap weapons or to upgrade your existing one. Upgrade shops where you buy perks that either upgrade different stats, like your melee damage for example, or they might completely change what items do. For example, there's one perk that makes repair pickups less effective, but each shot you land on an enemy repairs you just a tiny amount. It's a trade-off I took once, but I didn't care for, but your mileage there may vary. Repair shops allow you to not only repair your car, as you would imagine, but also let you buy golden tickets. Golden tickets are sort of like an insurance policy. If you die in an event, it allows you to respawn. Elite events play out like regular ones, but they're more difficult, require you to finish first instead of top 3, but they also pay out more credits at the end. The thing with elite events is that scavenge hunts are usually right behind them on the map. And these spots are sweet. I loved going for these. There are 6 shipping containers and 5 of them contain upgrades, whether that's a better version of your gun, a full repair, credits, beat coins, a golden ticket, whatever it might be. But the thing is, one of these containers has wasted in it, and you lose everything you've opened if you are unfortunate enough to open this. The scavenge hunts are free to play and open, so like I said, I tended to prioritize these over other spaces, but it all depends on your run and what your strengths and weaknesses are. Each set of levels are capped off by a boss fight that's randomly selected, with the final boss being the same every run. Some of the bosses may require you to simply destroy them, and some may encourage you to beat them in a race, but they are all timed. If you run out of time, that's it. I didn't find much trouble with many of the bosses outside of Jetass. Yes, that's really his name, Jetass. This guy was quick and his health regenerates, so if you're trying to kill him, you better have an overpowered broken build. It is possible. I don't know how many times this guy filtered me on my runs, but it was more than once, I'll just put it that way. Once you either complete or fail a run, you'll get a chance to spend your beat coins before going on another run. In total, there are 15 different vehicles, 13 different classes of guns, each with multiple modifiers and upgrades, and 80 different unlockable perks. There's a lot to unlock and play around with here. As I'm editing this video, I still haven't unlocked everything, but for me, being able to recognize where I was weak on a run and then finding the exact unlock I needed was a huge and exciting part of the experience. Each car has a set of base stats and all start with a unique weapon and perk. Stats range from max health, handling, top speed, acceleration, weapon damage, etc. So each vehicle already has pros and cons from the get-go. For example, let's just go ahead and use the car I beat my first run with to explain this, the Warhog. This big chunky thing has no speed whatsoever. Right? Honestly, it felt like the game was moving in slow motion while using this, but it was a killing machine. It starts off with high melee damage and a ton of health, but its weakness is its weapon, a railgun. The railgun does deal a decent amount of damage, but its lock-on time takes too long for me, and early on in my playthrough, my opponents would just leave me in the dust. So when I could, I purchased this weapon called the Stinger. It shoots out these timed bombs in a short burst that blow up after a short time. I also had a perk that would increase the damage of each shot in a burst as that burst went on. So the final shot did way more damage than the initial shot. Do you see where I'm going with this? I had upgraded this perk so much so that by the end of the run, my Stinger bombs were doing more damage on impact than they were blowing up. I was racking up triple kills, quad kills, it was nuts. But this isn't the only viable build in Rogue Shift. This was just my first and my favorite. There are cars that are much faster and more nimble, but they do little damage, or there are cars that are kind of somewhere in between. There are a bunch of different car and weapon combinations to try out, and that's really the strength of Carmageddon Rogue Shift. It encourages you to experiment and try new things, even if they don't work out. Just use whatever beat coins you earn from that failed run and try again. Tweak and mold your setup however you want. Beyond just the Stinger and railgun I mentioned earlier, there are machine guns, autonomous turrets, missile launchers, artillery barrages, shotguns, and there's even a BFG I still need to unlock. Each weapon also has 3 additional variants. Let's use the shotgun for an example. There is your standard shotgun, but there's also a high caliber option, as well as rapid fire and manual. The high caliber variant does more damage, but doesn't allow you to hold as much ammo without an upgrade. The rapid fire variant does less damage per shot, but collectively all of the shots do more damage than the base gun and allows you to hold more ammo. whereas the manual variant does a solid amount of damage, but it removes the targeting system, so it's a bit harder to hit your target. Don't be afraid to experiment. It's a game that definitely encourages you to think outside the box and survive. Overall, I loved my time with Carmageddon Rogue Shift, but I feel like I wouldn't do this video justice if I didn't mention the few issues I noticed with the game. I wanted to mention this earlier, but the handling model in its current state is just, it's not great. It's hard to describe without handing you the controller and letting you try it out, but I'm gonna try to explain it. I found my car spinning at places I wouldn't expect to spin. If you take a turn too tightly, it spins. If you hit a wall wrong, you spin. If you don't hold a drift at the right angle, you spin. You hit a bump the wrong way, you spin. You get my point. The controller doesn't vibrate at all during any of this to indicate that you're losing traction, and on top of this, I found myself overcorrecting often while trying to save myself from a spin. There just isn't any feedback. For me, I don't understand why these physics are in a combat racer like this. If anything, I feel like this should be the most arcadey, glued to the ground, planted in place game out there. And yes, I understand that there are cars that have higher handling stats and, you know, they do have a tighter turning radius and that sort of thing, but I still think that they spin too easily for my liking. And the game, like I said, doesn't give you feedback when it's about to happen. It's purely a visual thing. I just feel like I shouldn't have to baby my inputs when I'm playing a high-octane, explosive game like this, that's all. I think the devs need to tweak this a bit. I'd like to see a patch in the future to address this. We also need to talk about Carmageddon Rogue Shift's price, which launches at $39.99. Personally, it took me about 9 hours of gameplay to complete my first run, and I still have more than half of the content left to unlock on future runs. I can easily see myself getting 10 to 15 more hours of gameplay out of this, so I don't see an issue there, but it needs to be mentioned. Finally, even with that amount of content and replayability in mind, I do wish that this game had multiplayer of some kind. I know that servers cost money, and building multiplayer isn't as easy as just flipping a switch and enabling it, but at the same time, the gameplay loop is so damn fun. I can see myself playing this with friends, you know, just hopping on for a few hours and blowing each other up, just having some stupid fun. Maybe if we ever get a sequel, they can include multiplayer, and based on the quality of Carmageddon Rogue Shift, I think we're gonna get one. It is a blast. I came into this a skeptic and I left a big fan. I do wish there was a new Carmageddon in the style of the original games. I understand that angle and I understand that concern, but I also believe there's room for something new. And Carmageddon Rogue Shift is a very fun, very frantic, brand new take on Carmageddon. If you're interested in checking out Carmageddon Rogue Shift for yourself, I've left links in the description down below to buy it on your platform of choice. And thank you again to 34 Big Things for providing the channel with a key. Before I go, I want to give a huge shout out to my highest tier patrons CD-ROM Fossil and Arcade Racing Central, and to all of my patrons over on Patreon. You guys are awesome. My name is Mercy, and as always, have a good one.